Well, welcome back to week 2 and lecture 3. And in lecture 3, we'll be covering the premise of counting. And as I kind of hinted towards in the first lecture, the first week, counting is going to be pretty important. It's going to be a very, very critical skill as we progress through probability to understand the ways to look at different permutations, combinations, different sample sets, and how to figure out how many possible outcomes are there when you're looking at a specific problem. What are the different things I need to take into account? And so in lecture 3, we'll be looking at a few major categories. But the first thing that we'll look at is what's called the basic counting principle. And ultimately, this is just how many outcomes are there? If I have a coin that I'm flipping, what are the possible outcomes? Heads? Tails? Is there a probability it lands on its side? Not really one that we care about in most cases. If I'm looking at rolling a six-sided die, how many outcomes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But what happens when I start doing that multiple times? Say 10 successive coin flips. Well, how many outcomes are there now? That's what we'll kind of go over in the basic counting principle. After that, we'll look at permutations and combinations, and both of those will have a significant number of examples associated with them to really help reinforce the mathematics of those and the concepts of permutations and combinations as we go through this course. Because again, the stuff that we cover in this early counting section is going to be critical to your understanding of future sections in this course. Now, the last section we'll look at is repeated sampling. And repeated sampling is basically saying, well, what happens if there's multiple of the same thing available? Let's say I'm pulling marbles out of a bag and I have 6 red marbles and 3 blue marbles. Well, what's the probability of getting a red marble? What's the probability of getting a red marble the second time? What happens when the order doesn't matter? Those are all questions that we'll ask in repeated sampling, and in each of these sections, we'll be deriving formulas that'll be very important for you to keep track of as we progress through the course in order to be able to solve the problems that you'll find in front of you. Any of those critical formulas you'll find outlined and in big, bold letters, and I would encourage you to make sure that you fully understand those formulas and that you have them written down somewhere so that you can utilize them for future exams or for your information as you progress into your careers as computer scientists or electrical and computer engineers. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the content for this week.